Wow. Just wow. I had something else planned for this afternoon, but when I came across this clip, 78 seconds filled with nothing but the truth, I just had to share it with you guys. We are all about truth and authenticity here on the channel, both of which are in short supply throughout the mainstream media. Hell, throughout the mainstream in general. Seems like everything that we are presented today, whether it's in the media or whether it's on television, it seems like everything is presented through smoke and mirrors. It's all an illusion. The other day, Bill Maher was asked why Trevor Noah receives more accolades, more awards than he does. You know what his response was? Because I tell the truth. Hollywood, the media, they reward people for spreading lies and propaganda while punishing anyone who speaks the truth. It's becoming more and more difficult to separate fact from fiction, becoming more and more difficult to understand who's real and who's fake. Oftentimes, the people classifying themselves as the real ones are the fakest of the bunch. This past weekend, I was talking to one of my good friends. He's an aspiring YouTuber. He wants to start an outdoors type channel. He was asking the typical questions, how to get started, how to get noticed, your typical beginner stuff. At one point, he asked me how I came about doing what I do here on the channel. I explained how I started out focusing strictly on sports. Then when everything happened in the summer of 2020, I started mixing in my opinion on BLM, the riots, how it was impacting the NBA. I said eventually I came to the realization if I started verbalizing what everyone else was actually thinking, which was the exact opposite of what we were seeing in the mainstream media, if I focused on calling out all that bullshit without fear, people would be attracted to the channel. Why? Because it's authentic. The truth is always authentic. We are fed so many lies, so much bullshit every day, that when you come across someone willing to tell you the truth, it feels like something different. The reason it feels different is because it is different. And being different is the only way to get noticed on this platform. It's the reason I noticed this clip that I'm about to show you. How many of you guys have ever heard of Royce White? None of you? That's what I thought. Royce White is a former college basketball player. Back in 2012, he was drafted in the first round of the NBA draft. His NBA career ended like 80, 90% of most first round draft picks. He was out of the league after 3 games. He bounced around professional leagues in Europe and Canada before stumbling across what could be his true calling, cleaning up the dump known as Minneapolis, Minnesota. Royce White, he was running for Congress representing the 5th District in Minneapolis. It's been about 10 years since I've been to Minneapolis. I spent a week there in the middle of January 2012. I thought it was a beautiful city, vibrant downtown, plenty of things to do. It's one of the best work trips that I've ever been on. But as is always the case when shit fucks are given power, Minneapolis has been overrun by dump divers and wanker spankers. Crime is surging because police were defunded, cashless bail. Instead of the beautiful city that I remember, Minneapolis is now similar to your typical WNBA dump. Royce White was looking to clean up his hometown. According to the Washington Post, Royce White is a far-right populist who turned down his opportunity to be Fauci fucked. He once claimed the WNBA should be reserved for women instead of the men that we see in the league today. In other words, Royce White seems to be a common sense thinker. Now, he ended up losing in the Republican primary, and to be honest with you, I don't know shit about his politics. But if he is anything close to resembling the truth bombs that he dropped about LeBron James the other day, Royce White has my respect. He was on the No Jumper podcast talking about LeBron James and his strange silence when it comes to China. Watch for yourself.
Was given $1 billion by Nike, the establishment, the anti-human, neoliberal, Marxist, globalist establishment, which is also Church of LGBTQ. He was given this $1 billion to keep his mouth shut about the single greatest humanitarian crisis of our generation. And that is the 2 million people being placed in the concentration camps in China for no other crime than being Muslim. But he took the $1 billion because when you're a radical materialist, and you come from Akron, Ohio, like I come from Minneapolis, or you come from one of these other black communities, you measure your success based on what other black people have. And because other black people don't have $1 billion, he feels that the $1 billion he got is an accomplishment that he can hold over y'all.
I found a couple of things interesting about this. Number one, we have often theorized here on the channel about these people being paid propagandists. How many times have I made the point that Stephen A. Smith is the world's highest paid parrot? You watch Stephen A. on ESPN and he's preaching about the dangers of mythical racism. Black men are not given fair opportunities in America. Fight the white devil. Ouch! Where is Max Kellerman? All this screaming and preaching pop one of the roids in my bongo. Tell Max to bring me a pad with some preparation H. Several hours later, he makes an appearance on Fox News. Stephen A. Smith is talking common sense. He's talking about crime and punishment, keeping criminals, in jail. It is the complete antithesis. The narrative is completely different than what we see on ESPN. Royce White was making the same point about LeBron James. Nike is paying him $1 billion to remain silent when it comes to China. LeBron is all about pushing for voting rights here in the United States, where they already exist. I'm still waiting for someone to give me an example of one black person being denied the right to vote. Well, KC, convicted felons can't vote. Yeah. But they're not being denied their right. They lost it. They made a choice. There's a difference. LeBron James is all about pushing mythical racism, promoting all these stories of fake racism here in America. But when the subject of real racism is brought to his attention, LeBron James, he exercises his right to remain silent. Not only does he exercise his own personal right to remain silent, he encourages others throughout the NBA to follow his lead. Remember how he responded when Daryl Morey tweeted his support for freedom fighters in Hong Kong? Remember that?
We all talk about this freedom of speech. Yes, we all do have freedom of speech, but at times there are ramifications for the negative that can happen when you're not thinking about others and you're only thinking about yourself. So I don't believe, I don't want to get into a word or sentence feud with Daryl. Morey, but I believe he wasn't educated on the situation at hand, and he spoke, and so many people could have been harmed, not only financially but physically, emotionally, spiritually. So just be careful what we tweet and we say and what we do. Even though yes, we do have freedom of speech, but there can be a lot of negative that comes with that too.
Last question, please.
Shut the fuck up, Daryl. You are messing with the king's money. The king of Queens gets real sad when his daddy G gets real mad. Lately, LeBron James seems to prefer the silencing of free speech. We'll get into that more in just a moment. But the second part of Royce White's commentary that I thought was interesting, he spoke on this notion in the black community, this materialistic notion is what I think he called it. This notion that a person's value is tied directly to their bank account, where people are constantly comparing themselves to others on social media, trying to one-up each other, trying to be better than someone else, to give themselves this false sense of pride and accomplishment. Now, this is not just a problem in the black community. I'm sure Royce White spoke directly to the issue affecting black people because that's what he grew up around. But this same notion, it affects everyone. It's the reason I think social media is a disease. There have been numerous studies linking depression to overuse of social media. It's not hard to draw the parallel. If you're unmarried or single and you see all these supposedly happily married people on Facebook and you're staring at it for hours every day, I imagine it could make you depressed. If you're broke and you're looking at all these people in their leased Mercedes while you're driving your 1995 Schwinn, after a while, you're going to start feeling down on yourself. But the thing is, none of it's real. Social media is not real, just like the mainstream media is not real. It's all an illusion. Happy people, like real happy people, people with busy lives and careers, they don't feel the need to constantly brag about it on social media. Oftentimes, the people portraying happiness are the most miserable. But anyway, I'm rambling off topic. I find it interesting that the only two people associated with the NBA willing to speak about the issue of China is Enes Kanter and Royce White. One's been blackballed from the league, the other only stayed for a nice weekend trip. Now, how come the only two men willing to speak up about it no longer have any ties to the NBA? Better yet, how come there is no outcry in the mainstream media about Enes Kanter being blackballed? Remember when Colin Kaepernick was blackballed from the NFL? Remember the media overreaction? This is mythical racism! The NFL is putting money over values and police brutality! The league is obviously biased against black men. The last I checked, the NBA was nearly 80% black. Enes Kanter is a white dude. Pretty sure white dudes in the NBA are in the minority, or what the shitfucks would like to call a marginalized group. Where are the cries of mythical racism? They're non-existent because Enes Kanter being blackballed doesn't fit the media narrative. Earlier this morning, LeBron James announced that he would not be airing the latest episode of The Shop, which featured Kanye West as the guest. Translation, he is silencing him. For the past week, the mainstream media has went into woke overdrive, trying to silence Kanye West. They've labeled him crazy, misogynistic, and now they are hitting him with one of the favorites, mythical racism. In response to this fake media outrage, LeBron James decided to pull this episode. We will not be responsible for the promotion of hate speech. Imagine my surprise when I find out the media is accusing Kanye West of mythical racism by calling him anti-Semitic. Let me get this straight. The same media who for decades has supported Palestine over Israel, the same media who has never had an issue denigrating the Jewish community, the same media who sympathized with terrorists when they attack Israel and Israel attacks back. That same media now wants to defend the Jewish community, all because it fits their narrative. They are using the Jewish community to discredit Kanye West. You see now why I say it's all smoke and mirrors? These people are always talking about fighting for a cause. They're always talking about fighting for rights, LGBT rights, minority rights, transgender rights, abortion rights, rights. It's all an illusion. The only rights they're concerned with is taking away your rights, taking away your gun rights, taking away your right to free speech, censoring anyone who doesn't agree with them, and they're constantly changing narrative. But anyway, let me know what you think. Royce White calls out LeBron James for essentially selling his soul to Nike and China for $1 billion. Give me your thoughts. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.